Today, we begin to look at the keys to the season. First item, can Bo Horvat and Mathew Barzal find the right chemistry to make both players successful? Plus, an injury to Alexander Romanov and rookie camp comes to a close. We've got all that and more on today's Locked On Islanders podcast.
You're Locked On Islanders, your daily podcast on the New York Islanders. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And welcome, everybody, to the Tuesday edition of the Locked On Islanders podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Want to thank everyone who makes Locked On Islanders your first listen every day. Don't forget to subscribe on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts so you can get new episodes as soon as they drop. You could also now find us on SiriusXM on the SXM app. Just do a search for Locked On Islanders. We have got a lot to discuss on today's show, but first, if there's something Islanders related on your mind, feel free to send us an email to lockedonislanders@gmail.com. If you've got a question, a comment, maybe something you'd like us to discuss on a future episode, send us that email. And if you mention your first name and where you're from, we're happy to mention you on the show when we discuss whatever's on your mind. You could also follow the show on Twitter at Locked On Isles, and you could follow me, Gil Martin, on Twitter at Ice Wars, NYR_VSNYI. We'll keep you up to date on all things Islanders, from training camp to the preseason to all the 82 games of the regular season. We'll have it all for you here on Locked On Islanders every Monday through Friday. And don't forget, everydayers, we are back on a Monday through Friday schedule now. So we're back in full season mode from here until probably mid-July. So enjoy the ride with us as the Islanders get ready for 2023-2024. We're going to start looking at some of the important things that the Islanders kind of need to accomplish in order to make this season successful. And I guess the first thing is figuring out the chemistry between Bo Horvat and Mathew Barzal. Now, we're going to talk a little bit about this more or less every day between now and the start of the season. And again, this is sort of going to be important. All of the factors that we're bringing up in determining how successful the New York Islanders are going to be. And you go back, and the Islanders brought in Bo Horvat to be a guy who brings out the best in Mathew Barzal and vice versa, and to add more offense. And obviously last year, that didn't quite happen. Not the way the Islanders planned it out. And why? Well, one, there were a lot of factors. Let's not kid ourselves. But one of them was that after, 6 games after the trade, Mathew Barzal injured, misses the rest of the regular season. Yeah, comes back for the playoffs, but isn't in, playoff shape, and just did not get enough time with Bo Horvat to really establish that chemistry. So Bo Horvat ends up playing 30 games for the Islanders after the trade, 7 goals, 16 points, barely a point every other game. And you go back to those 6 games before the injury, and the trade actually goes through on the 30th of January, and the first game that they had was February 6th. His debut with the Islanders does not. Bo Horvat, no points. Then against Seattle, a goal. Against his former team, Vancouver, a goal and an assist. A goal the following game in Montreal, and then 2 games with no scoring. Realistically, in those 6 games, you have 3 goals and 1 assist, which is certainly a better point production than you got from Bo Horvat after Mathew Barzal got hurt. But it's tough. It's really tough to say that in those 6 games, there was real chemistry between those two players. They were still in the stage of sort of getting a feel for what the other player does and how it works. And, you know, if I do this, where can I expect the other one to be? So there still is something that needs to be worked out between those two players. And obviously they were brought in to complement each other and to help each other. But there are a lot of caveats. And one of them is that obviously if these two guys are going to be line mates, one of them has to move from their natural center position while the other one has to go to the stick at center. One is on the wing. Bo Horvat basically saying, hopefully we can rekindle what we had. I mean, it was a lot of fun to play with him when he was healthy. It was tough for him, especially him coming back into a playoff series the way he did. That's never easy. And I'm just looking forward to both of us getting a training camp under our belt and kind of hitting the ground running. Meanwhile, Barzal tells the Hockey News that they are going to be together. He says that's the plan right now. Like I said last year when he first got in, we were flying, and then the playoffs. I was coming back from an injury, so I couldn't really quite find it like we probably wanted to. But you look at the skill sets and whatnot, having us together should work. So I'm looking forward to it. And look, if this works, it's going to be huge for the Islanders to get both of these players going. But there's one other thing that you have to take into consideration, and that is who fills that third spot on the line with Barzal and Bo. And again, everydayers know that, in my opinion, it should not be Anders Lee. And that's not to say Anders Lee is not the best available left wing on the roster right now. He probably is, but his style is too similar to Bo Horvat's, and having them on the same line just wouldn't be efficient and wouldn't maximize the talent of either player. So who do you need? In my mind, you want somebody who is going to shoot the puck. Why? Well, you would have Bo Horvat in front of the goal for tips, deflections, rebounds, and the like. You'd have Mathew Barzal to pass and to skate the puck into the zone. And then you'd have that shooter to shoot the puck, set up Horvat for tips, rebounds, and deflections, and get the puck on net. Ideally, that's the chemistry you want. So while I am confident that Bo Horvat and Mathew Barzal, given a full training camp and a preseason and some time to work together, can get the job done, getting somebody who's not afraid to shoot the puck as that third line mate, I think remains a key for this team. Who is that going to be? You got a number of possible candidates on this roster. I have to think that Oliver Wahlstrom is a candidate. I have to think Pierre Engvall is a possibility. Anders Lee is going to remain a possibility, even though I don't think he should be. And, you know, could you possibly move Casey Cizikas up? I don't think that's a good fit. I think that's, you know, more or less Uncle Leo on the first line all over again. Although Cizikas, I think, is a little better offensively than Uncle Leo was. But overall, I want to see a shooter, whoever it's going to be, on that top line with Bo and Barzy. The question remains whether or not Lane Lambert and Lou Lamoriello find somebody to fit that role and get the most out of all three players. All right, we have got a lot more to discuss on today's episode. We are going to talk about Alexander Romanov's status, training camp opening for veterans later this week. He probably will not be ready to play then, plus a few odds and ends to tie up from rookie camp, and our Islanders' birthday of the day, an original Islander who won the Stanley Cup the year before the Islanders were born, and then joined the Islanders, who then had the worst record in the history of the NHL up until that point. Let's see if you can guess who that is. We've got all that and more on today's Locked On Islanders podcast. Today's episode is brought to you by your friends at FanDuel Sportsbook. Snap into action this NFL season with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook right now. New customers get $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place a $5 bet. That's $200 in bonus bets, win or lose. If you've been thinking about joining FanDuel, there's no better time to get in on the action. And the app is just so easy to use. There's a wide range of betting options like point spreads, player props, over-unders, and more. And look, you can bet even more than the NFL. Hockey season just around the corner. You can take a look at Islanders futures. Bet on, over-under on player points for a lot of Islanders players, or how many points the Islanders as a team will have this year. Use your knowledge of the Isles on FanDuel. You can visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and kick off the NFL season and a lot more. FanDuel, official partner of the NFL. So, a little update on Alexander Romanov, and I know this came out last week, but we sort of let it slip through the cracks. As of right now, Romanov dealing with a shoulder injury. He had surgery during the offseason, and still no word officially from either Lou Lamoriello, who last week basically said that Romanov may not be ready, but he probably will be close. And Lane Lambert, who finally spoke to the media earlier this week and basically did not give an update on Alexander Romanov. So officially an upper body injury. The question is whether or not Romanov will be ready to start training camp. And you know what? I'll say this. If, let's say, it takes a week that Romanov is not ready, or let's even say 10 days, 2 weeks, whatever it is, as long as it's not a significant amount of time and he has time to get ready to play, to be in hockey shape by the time October 14th rolls around, I'm not worried, and I'll tell you why. It gives the Islanders a chance to take a longer look at some of the young defensemen. And the first guy, look, you have two players on the left side battling for what is likely the, third pair left defenseman spot. And you're talking about Sebastian Aho on the one side, on the one hand, and Samuel Bolduc on the other. And you'll be able to see more of both of them in the first week of camp. You'll also be able to take a look at Robin Salo, who is a left shot defenseman. Isaiah George is a left shot defenseman. Dennis Chalowski, a left shot defenseman. Give these guys a little more ice time and a little more work to do and get a better feel for how they are. The good news is that nobody seems to think that this injury delay with Alexander Romanov is going to be significant. And, Alexander Romanov, what a lot of people forget, he's still only 23 years old. He is roughly the same age as Noah Dobson. But everybody seems to view Dobson as a young kid and Romanov not as much. So I think it's important to understand that Romanov, who looked much better in the second half of the season than he did in the first, still hasn't probably reached his full NHL potential and can become a solid second pair physical defensive defenseman. If he could just, take his game up another notch. He certainly did a very good job of it this past year down the stretch. And, after adjusting to the Islanders system and to his teammates and to life on the island, I think he's got a pretty good chance of taking it up another notch this year. So if it goes according to plan and Alexander Romanov misses, let's say, 4 days, a week and a half of the beginning of training camp, that doesn't worry me. It gives you more of a chance to look at Bolduc, to look at Aho, to look at some of the other young players and give them a chance to make an impression on the coaching staff, get more reps with the experienced NHL players. All of these things really will benefit the Islanders in the long run. And again, if it's not a long break for Romanov and he's ready to start the season, I think it's all good as far as the Islanders are concerned. So hopefully, again, this injury is nothing, significant. The surgery took place during the offseason. He should be ready to go in time for the regular season. And maybe there is still a chance that he is ready to go when training camp gets underway. And I, for one, I am very eager to see if Romanov can take his game to the next level. It's important in my mind that, if he can do that, we've talked about a number of keys for the Islanders to get better, even though the roster is more or less the same. And I think Alexander Romanov making that jump in his second season with the team is another one of those factors that really could help the Islanders out. And again, getting a longer look at Bolduc and Aho and some of the other kids, also a very good thing for the Islanders organization. And, to me, that battle is probably the biggest battle in training camp, where one player is going to make the roster, the other one probably also make the roster, but not going to see the ice as much. Wouldn't shock me if both of them end up playing for the first 10 games, maybe even alternating games, or Lane Lambert ends up playing the hot hand. All of these things will be determined during training camp, preseason, and the like. So we'll see how it goes, but I think overall, not worried at this point about Alexander Romanov and that injury, and really looking forward to seeing what he can do during the year. All right, we have got even more to talk about on today's show. We'll tie up rookie camp, which came to a conclusion, and some news about some of the players in rookie camp. Always looking forward to training camp, and we'll talk a little bit about that as well. Plus our Islanders birthday of the day, all that and more on today's Locked On Islanders podcast. Today's episode is brought to you by Jase Medical. Jase, everyone should be empowered to care for themselves and their loved one during the unexpected. That's why Jase Medical offers the Jase Case. The Jase Case provides 5 life-saving antibiotics for emergency use and gives you a peace of mind so that you're not just hoping that you have access to medication in an emergency. Jase Medical makes sure you have the medication in hand. Jase Medical is simple. They handle everything from the online evaluation to licensed pharmacy medication delivery and ongoing consultation and care. So don't get caught unprepared. Save more than $360 by getting these life-saving antibiotics with Jase Medical, plus an additional $20 off by using code LOCKEDON at checkout at jasemedical.com. That's JASE medical.com, promo code LOCKEDON. Rookie camp coming to a close, and pretty excited, all things considered. A little bit of news now. Callie Odelius heading back to Europe right now. His plan is to come to North America and play in Bridgeport, not this year, but for 2024, 2025. So he will be back in Sweden this year. And I think there is an advantage to that. He will be playing against adults and playing in the best league in Sweden. So I think you sort of have a look at that. And again, little news on Odelius. Rick Kowalski, who is now the head coach of the Bridgeport Islanders, had this to say about Odelius. He moves well, a good skater. It's the first time seeing him for me, but it looks like there's some offensive ability there. I was impressed overall with the one-on-ones and how he defended and competed down low. And, Odelius basically admitting that there was an adjustment for him coming to the narrower North American rink. He basically said it's much faster here. You have to make quicker reads here than back in Sweden. So Odelius going to be back in Sweden this year with the expectation that he comes to probably Bridgeport in 2024, 2025. So that is the plan as of right now. And again, hopefully that pans out. Meanwhile, rookie camp going to come to a close. And then what do we have? Well, Wednesday, the veterans all report. When they come in, they will take their physicals. And then Thursday, for the first time, the full Islanders roster, or at least those players that are healthy, will hit the ice for the 2023-2024 season. So really looking forward to that. It is, again, one of those things where you just sit there and say, yeah, hockey is in the air, and we are very much looking forward to seeing how this team looks and how they do when they go out there and hit the ice. So exciting times now. Always a lot of anticipation. I really look forward to the start of training camp. There is a certain amount of optimism. Yeah, I know that this team is very much similar to the team that lost in the first round and barely squeaked into the playoffs. But hey, everydayers, if you follow us for the rest of the training camp and preseason, we're going to go over some reasons why this team really could be better and what the keys are for making this team improve this year. And I think it's possible. I'm not saying they're magically going to become a Stanley Cup contender, but I think there's enough talent on this team, especially in goal, to have this team fight and compete for a playoff spot. And when you've got one of the better goalies in the NHL, if not the best goalie in the NHL, in Ilya Sorokin, you can steal and win any playoff series. So lots to think about. Hopefully this will be an entertaining and better season for the New York Islanders. But look, we'll take it one game at a time. I feel that nip in the air. It's hockey weather. And I am really, really looking forward to the start of the new season. All right, time now for our Islanders birthday of the day. And there's a lot of really good Islanders birthdays this week. Let's see if anyone got the Islanders birthday of the day right. An original Islander who turns 83 years old today. He won a Stanley Cup in 1971-72 with the Boston Bruins, and then joined the Islanders, who only won 12 out of 78 games in their first season. Of course, I'm talking about the captain, Ed Westfall, first captain in Islanders history, and a player after he retired who went on to work along with Jiggs McDonald on television broadcasts and was really a big part of Islanders culture during the dynasty years, not as a player, but as a broadcaster. So Ed Westfall, always great. One of the better penalty killers in the NHL, and also could put the puck in the net. 25 goals and 59 points for the Bruins in 70-71. 22 goals for the Islanders in 74-75, and another 25 in 75-76. During the long 1975 playoff run in 17 games, 5 goals, 15 points. So 18, a big part of the Islanders' success. We look at one of his better games with the Islanders, October 28th, 1974, at the Old Barn, the Nassau Veterans Memorial Coliseum. The old California Golden Seals visit, and Ed Westfall shining in this game. He gets one of 2 hat tricks that he had as a New York Islander. Billy Smith, the goalie for the Islanders, Gary the Cobra Simmons gets the start for the Seals. And for Ed Westfall, he hadn't scored yet. Here were the Islanders playing in their 8th game, and he didn't have any goals in the first 7. Gets 2 in the second period, including 1 on the power play, and then 1 in the third. Islanders crush the Seals by a score of 10-1 in this game. Islanders finished with 47 shots on goal compared to just 28 for the Seals. In addition to the hat trick for Westfall, a hat trick and an assist for Billy McMillan. 3 assists for Ralph Stewart in this game, and Dennis Potvin added 3 assists as well. A one-sided win. And Ed Westfall, the one thing you can't forget about Westfall, how much leadership he added, especially in 1975 when most of the Islanders players didn't have a lot of playoff experience. It was guys like Ed Westfall and Jude Drouin and J.P. Parise, Zach's dad, who really helped the Islanders get through that playoff run with, getting those young guys to feel more comfortable with the playoff situation. I want to thank everyone again for making Locked On Islanders your first listen every day. Every dayers. Tomorrow on the show, we're going to have some more factors that are key to the Islanders' success and improvement coming up this year, plus some more notes as rookie camp comes to a close. Have a great day, everybody. Stay safe. And of course, let's go Islanders.